Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome. So, hold on a second, full screen video. There we go. I had the wrong logo going there. So I just wanted to make a video talking about Baphomet in a little bit more detail. So here's the deal, right? So we look at Baphomet as kind of like this just like overarching representation inside of the occult and kind of like nothing extra. And I think that that's probably what one of the worst things that we can actually do with Baphomet is just kind of belittle Baphomet into being just nothing, right? Just kind of like, oh yeah, it's a cool symbol, right? I mean, I think if anything, we've learned in the occult that that's not how things work, right? That's not the deal. We understand the power that, the things that we give image to, right? Like, the things that we believe in, the things that we call on, like, even if it's indirectly, like it's given power. And this is completely like, this is just outside of the history of Baphomet, right? Like just outside of that idea. Just the symbol itself, if Baphomet was just a symbol, that symbol would still have power, right? Outside of what it is that I know to be true. So I think like one of the things that we kind of run into an issue with when it comes to like Baphomet and stuff like that, is honestly the satanic community. I mean, nothing but love to you guys, but the atheistic Satanists turning into, anti-Catholics essentially, or like reverse Catholics, in the sense that like, turning around and saying, there is no such thing as a theistic Satanists. Theistic Satanists don't exist. It's bullshit. It's bullshit, right? Like just trying to hold on to that, like that, what they believe to be, the level of credibility that Anton LaVey gave them back in the 60s, with the Church of Satan. It's just kind of sad to see, right? And so the idea that Baphomet is only a satanic symbol, which is completely wrong, right? Completely wrong. Baphomet is not a satanic symbol. By any means of the imagination is Baphomet a satanic symbol. Baphomet, so when I talk about, excuse me, when I talk about, the black tree of life and death, right? I mean, you can get that confused with like the tree of life and death, right? Which like is more Cliff-off than anything else. That's not this, right? That's not this. It's an understanding that, so it's not necessarily like kind of like a mirror, right? So when we think of the life of tree, the tree of life and death, it's almost like a mirrored image, right? So for one side, there is an equal and opposite other side to it, right? And so it's almost like a shadow realm, like a shadow of, what exists in the tree of life, right? The tree of death is, a separate tree that is a shadow of the tree of life. That's not what this is, right? The black tree of life and death. It's not like that. It is a single-bodied element, and the underside isn't a mirror of the top side, right? So the root system is not a mirror of the top side. The top side would be kind of like what you consider life, and the root system would be what you consider death in most cases. In this case, it's kind of different. So the life force comes from the root system, right? The basis, the roots that hold the tree together, right? That passes all the nutrients into the tree come from the root system, much like we understand it in life, right? And so with that idea, what we're looking at in the root system is the root of everything. The beginning, as above, so below, right? And I think a lot of people think that as above, so below automatically kind of dives into, this idea of equality, like it's equal parts above and below, and that's not true either, right? So balance isn't necessarily a 50-50 thing, right? That's one thing that needs to be understood. When we talk about balance, balance isn't, a 50-50 concept. It's not like, 2 parts here, 2 parts there. No, it could be 3 parts here, 2.5 parts down here, or 1 part down here and 5 parts up here. So balance isn't being balanced as in equal scaling, like in the scientific sense or like the mathematical sense that we would think of balance. Interpersonal spiritual balance may very well seem or appear to be imbalanced in the physical world. So when we look at the root system is kind of where everything comes from. The branches coming off of the top is kind of different parallels that exist in life, and it's not just Earth, right? It's every other plane. It could be, you could break that down to a multiverse theory if you wanted to. There's really nothing kind of, we don't know a lot about it. Let's just put it that way, right? We know that most of the entities that we work with, when we talk about Belial, when we talk about Payman, when we talk about Lucifer, when we talk about Lilith, when we talk about, Marbus, all of these demonic entities, even like the angelic ones, all exist on the top part of the tree, right? Exist within the branches, parallel or at least relatively close to us. So apart from there being a bunch of shit on the tree that we don't know about, that we don't know what's there, what's not there, or even how to get there, the root system is the most, like I would say, the most mysterious aspect of it, because there's only one entity that we know of that comes from the root system, and that's Baphomet. Baphomet has gone by many names. Baphomet has not always been in the representation that we know Baphomet to be in, right? So Baphomet hasn't always had this representation to him. I say him, you can say her, you can say they. Honestly, any of those pronouns for the entity is valid. There's no, one right way to talk about Baphomet. For me, Baphomet comes across as a he in voice and in persona when working with Baphomet. So when we look at Baphomet, we look at kind of like the history of goat gods, right? We can kind of trail back all the way back to, like, as far back as I've been able to tell, the 4th century BCE, up and around Egypt. And that would be the goat of Mendes, right? Mendes. And if you look, there's an interesting flip that happens when we talk about goats in history, at least spiritually speaking. So goats used to be very revered as spiritual entities before the Abrahamic faiths kind of came into play. Goats were respected and revered, and much like, I guess you could compare it to cows in certain parts of India, I believe it is, where they don't eat beef because cows are sacred, type of thing. Goats used to be treated very much the same way, that goats are sacred. And then there was a flip that happened when the Abrahamic faith started to come through, Judaism, Islam, Christianity. When they started to come through, when they started to kind of pick up momentum, goats were very quickly demonized and turned into a negative. Even so, like Islam, being an Abrahamic religion, uses goats in a very ritualistic way. The scapegoat, that's where the scapegoat comes from, right? Is so, putting all of your negativity and all your sin into the goat, and then slitting its throat in the street and letting its blood run through the street, and painting your door with its blood. So to say that, you've done your sacrifice, right? So there's a lot, that kind of still revolves around goats. It's just the whole thing's kind of flipped. Instead of being kind of like sacred and being worshipped, they're vilified and, feared. hence, demonic entities, many demonic entities taking the form of a goat. But this also brings with it a certain level of validity to the idea that the demonic entities or the infernals that we work with today were the old gods of yesteryear. Now, I don't believe that there's much necessity in drudging up the past in that sense, in the fact that maybe if you figured out what their previous names were, when they were gods, before they were demonics or before they were infernals, that maybe you would be able to tap into more power, things like that. I don't believe that that's necessarily true. Just like I don't believe it's necessarily, it's important to whether or not you're worshiping the goat of Mendes or Baphomet. It's the same thing, different phone number, same individual, right? Same intelligence that you're contacting. So with that being said, going back that far and looking at that flip, it brings a lot of validity to the idea that Baphomet is a lot more than what we give him credit for. And I've been working with Baphomet for years. I have had extensive conversations with the entity, very detailed questions with very detailed answers. This is laid out in my book. Once I'm done editing it, that'll be out soon, very soon. I have a few people helping me with the edits on that. But this and a lot more of what I'm talking about is what I'm going to be covering in my course for the 15th of February. It's just in a couple of weeks. I figured it's about time that somebody kind of dug into this and stopped throwing Baphomet around just like Baphomet's Satan. That's it. That's all Baphomet's worth. And for a long time, I guess I was kind of waiting for somebody to kind of pop up and bring this forward. And I'm just kind of like, all right, maybe it's not about waiting anymore. Maybe it's about doing. And so that's what I'm doing. The association that Baphomet has with the Church of Satan or the Satanic Temple, there's no animosity to them using the imagery of Baphomet, right? All that imagery it's press, right? It's no press is bad press. So there's no animosity there, but there needs to be a line drawn in the sand, so to speak, to kind of elevate the understanding of this entity and what this entity can do for you. Because the way Baphomet operates is significantly different than compared to other infernals. And I'm not even sure I would label Baphomet an infernal. Nor would I necessarily label Baphomet a divine entity. Baphomet is the combination of both of those in its most righteous and powerful forms. So working with Baphomet is a work drenched in Nosis. That's what your overall goal needs to be, right? Nosis is the focal point here when working with Baphomet. It's not about, getting the car, getting the job, getting the money, getting the girl. It's not getting the guy. It's not about that. It's not about the mundane. Baphomet wants you to know that when it comes to this world, when it comes to this plane of existence that we have, that we exist in, all your desires are at your fingertips. Everything you want, you've wanted, or you could ever come to want, is and always has been at your fingertips. You just have to reach for it. What Baphomet teaches us, what Baphomet gives us, is the Nosis beyond this plane, is an understanding of truly what is hidden. And the courage to go into ritual and kind of poke around, and instead of going into ritual, calling the names of things that have been called a million times before, to kind of poke around and start asking questions, say, hey, what's out there? Who's out there? What's listening to me right now? What wants to come through? And not being afraid of doing that. That's what Baphomet does for us. It gives us the understanding of that side of everything that we mightn't have missed before because we're too obsessed with what happens or doesn't happen here. And so if Nosis and understanding and going deeper into Nosis and your own personal spiritual understanding and tearing apart your shadow like you've never done before is something that interests you, I know it's something that a lot of people are scared of. A lot of people are afraid. They're terrified of self-awareness. And that's what it is, right? Doing shadow work, that is self-awareness. That is bringing your self-awareness, your awareness of yourself, right? Of your behaviors and why you behave certain ways and why you do things the way that you do them and why you keep having these repetitive situations in your life that just keep going to shit. That the shadow work, that's what's going to break those cycles, right? It's going to break that generational trauma. It's going to break, those barriers that you've built up around yourself to protect yourself over the years. And a lot of people, I know, a lot of people are afraid of that shit. A lot of people, they're afraid to look at themselves. A lot of people are afraid to go in and, ask for a ritual to work on them because it's easier if everyone else is the problem. Right? It's easier if the reason your life is the way that it is because of everyone else except for you. And Baphomet doesn't play that game. And as far as I can tell, Baphomet's never played that game. And Baphomet won't let you play that game either. And so when we talk about going in and working with the shadow with Baphomet and finding that spiritual and internal balance with ourselves, that is the most important part of the work that we do. And you begin to find when you do extensive work into that you don't need to do as much ritual as you think you do for the mundane aspects of your life that you want to garner and gain and earn. You don't have to do much spiritual work around that, right? And your spiritual work can focus on the spiritual and the non-physical, and you'll be able to have the power, ability, confidence, and capability to go through your life, obtaining the things that you want to obtain by your own merits. So maybe it's something that scares too many people. Maybe that hard of a look on yourself, it's not as, shiny or, glamorous as working with a demon to get the job that you want or make the boss you hate suffer. Maybe it's not as glamorous as that. Maybe Nosis and the understanding of the spiritual isn't as glamorous as, I think it is. Because when I think of glamour in the occult, something that's glamorous in the occult, I find, not even scholarly understanding of the occult do I find necessarily, a glamorous aspect of the occult. But what I find glamorous about the occult, for me, is that deep dive into the shit that we don't know. Going head first into the pool and swimming to the bottom and see what you can pull up. Yeah, I guess it'd be more like a lake then, right? Because if you jump into a pool, you kind of see to the bottom. So we're jumping head first in the lake. I know a lot of people are going to be out there and be like, well, sometimes you might hit your head. Well, yeah, you might, but, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, right? So if you all want to take a dive into that lake with me, that beautiful lake of fire, then February 15th is going to be the first sit-down live course talking about this stuff in a lot more detail than what I'm doing right now, right? So we're talking 2 hours. You guys listen to me just go through everything, and then also kind of telling you guys how to like do ritual, because I like it when people figure shit out for themselves, right? Like I like it when you go into ritual and you figure the shit out for yourself and you're like, oh dude, that worked. It's such a satisfactory feeling, because what works for me may not work for you. It might not, right? Fuck, it might, I don't know. But in my experience, trying to follow a ritual verbatim as it's written down, right, just feels so disingenuous to myself and to the practice of what it being called a craft, so it's just kind of like grabbing up pieces and shit and kind of putting it together, and that's how I kind of come up with what I've come up with that works. So that being said, I'm finally going to kind of give you guys a rundown, a starter kind of like rundown, because there's too much to go over, honestly. Like in 2 hours, the full history and the ritual shit. I mean, so it'd be like 1 hour for the history, and then 1 hour going through kind of like the ritualistic practices and the Baphometic tradition. Excuse me again. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna be doing. Like, I would like it for you guys to kind of try to figure the shit out for yourself, but like at the end of the day, if I've already got some of the keys that might work for you, might as well just kind of throw them at you and say, hey, give them a shot, see if it opens the door for you too. So that's what I'm gonna do, and hopefully, you get a bite like I did. But also just understand, like, what it is I'm going to show you isn't like a rule, right? I'm not showing like this is how you have to do it. That's not the point of it. The point of it is to show you what works, what has worked for me in the past, what continues to work for me today, and give you the best possible starting opportunity to build that relationship with Baphomet. And I'm going to be, after the 15th, probably April, May, I'm going to be opening the Order of Baphomet to pretty much anyone that wants to join. There is no there's no cost to join the Order of Baphomet. That's going to be free. There is an expectation of participation, right, as far as like the teachings and things of that go. But the Order of Baphomet is 100% free, open to the public. And like I said, there's an expectation of participation. Right? So if you participate and you are present during the things that are done for the Order of Baphomet, we're going to start it online, and then hopefully start building towards having like an actual physical location for the Order of Baphomet. So that's another thing that is coming from this. Kind of been... So I got a lot... I'm coughing a lot here. I'm sorry. So there's been a lot of thought that I've put into all of this. And it's high time that the era of Baphomet kicks into full gear. So I am officially calling 2026 the year of Baphomet. I'm calling it. So the year 2025 is the year of Baphomet. And then every year thereafter. Right? So that's what I'm calling. I'm calling 2025 the year of Baphomet. So hopefully you guys are as excited as I am, because I am excited. I mean, I know I don't look like it, right? Like I'm like miserable. No, but I am very excited to talk to you guys about this, and to go into the detail that I'm going to be going into. It's gonna be fucking awesome. So if you're interested in that, to book your seat, just do atiusdade.setmore, SETMORE.com, atiusdade.setmore.com, and that you can book your seat for it. Right. And again, if you're subscribed to the channel, show me proof that you're subscribed to the channel, you get 50% off of it, off the course. Right. And if you guys are curious of why I'm charging for the course, like, because it's not really like my vibe. I don't really go for that, but there's a lot more that I want to do with this channel. There's a lot more that I want to do with the courses, but it takes money to do it, right? So essentially, if you guys pay for the course and you're interested in the course, one, that shows me that you're interested in what it is that I'm putting out there, what it is I'm making, at least to that level, right? And then it'll allow me, it'll afford me the ability to do crazier, more in-depth stuff, and even some like in-person kind of like lectures and talks and stuff like that for this type of stuff. And I kind of want to start putting together kind of like Baphometic tradition kits, right? So stuff that I think that has worked for me, right? That you guys can purchase in a kit to kind of get you started, get you working on it, right? Stuff like that. So there's a lot of stuff that I want to do with this. And beyond Baphomet, like beyond Baphomet, there's other stuff that I want to do with the channel, but it takes financing. So I know, like, you guys are probably sitting there going, right? So, but that is the reason I am charging for the course, right? Instead of just making a video about it. Because one, it's taken a lot of time to put it together, like to kind of like get everything organized and kind of the points that are going to be going over and stuff like that and all that. And then just time, guys. Remember, time is our most valuable resource. Time might not cost us money, but time costs us time, and time we don't get back. Money we do, right? So there's that. So you guys are fucking amazing. If you got to the end of this video, I want you to put in the comment section below, type in the comment section, hail thy fucking self. That's what I want you to put in the comment section. If you got to the end of this video. Because you that got to the end of this fucking thing, you're the reason I fucking do this. Thank you so fucking much. And as always, hail thy fucking self. See you guys in the next one. Peace the fuck out.